What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, we have some very, very interesting news. As the World Boxing Association, better known as the WBA, President Gilberto Mendoza, they had informed undefeated three-division world champion, superstar boxer Gervonta Tank Davis, who was coming off of a victory over Isaac Cruz this past Saturday, Los Angeles, California, at the Staples Center. This past Sunday, December 5th. With that said, the WBA, Gervonta Tank Davis at one point simultaneously held the WBA super title at 130, regular title at 135 and 140. With that said, the WBA informed him that he had to indeed make a decision as to what belt he wanted to keep and what belt he wanted to relinquish. Initially, he relinquished the super title at 130, and now he's relinquished the regular title at 140 to remain the 135-pound WBA champion. So, with that said, initially they were going to order newly crowned lightweight world champion, unified Australian star boxer George Kambosos Jr., who's now 20 wins, no losses, no draws, 10 wins by way of knockout. George Kambosos Jr. is 28 years of age, standing 5'9.5" with a 69-inch arm reach, 70-inch arm reach. With that said, they were going to order George Kambosos Jr. versus Gervonta Tank Davis and make the decision for Gervonta Tank Davis. But by Gervonta Tank Davis vacating the WBA title at 140, that gave Gervonta Tank Davis wiggle room, okay? It gave him time to prepare. They initially was going to give Gervonta Tank Davis 30 days to make a decision and then order George Kambosos have to fight Gervonta Tank Davis as a mandatory at 135, okay? So he made the decision to relinquish the 140-pound WBA title. And now the WBA is stating that they are going to allow George Kambosos Jr. only to go into a unification bout with undefeated WBC lightweight world champion superstar boxer Devin the Dream Haney in his next bout. And if he doesn't fight Devin Haney in a unification bout in his next fight, they are going to order George Kambosos go ahead and fight Gervonta Tank Davis because they don't want to have two champions in the same division, okay? So they want to do away with some of the belts. They want to eliminate some of the belts and the champions in each division. And I don't agree with every move the WBA is making. I don't agree with this move, and I don't agree with the WBA move at welterweight with Super WBA welterweight world champion Cuban star boxer Yordenis Ugas having to fight in a mini tournament against Stanionis, and the winner faced Butev, who beat the WBA regular welterweight champion Jamal James. So now he has to fight Stanionis, and then he has to fight Butev, Yordenis Ugas, that is, and he has to be victorious, opposed to him going into a mega unification showdown at welterweight against undefeated unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer who is widely considered by many to be top 3 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, in Earl the True Spence Jr., okay? So Earl Spence Jr., he wants to fight in a unification bout against Ugas, and Ugas wants to do the same thing after Ugas, got a major win for his career and an upset over legendary 8-division world champion, iconic Filipino superstar boxer Manny Pacquiao. That took place August 21st. With that said, the WBA is not consistent as to the decisions and the things how they go about making their decisions, okay? Because they're ordering that Yordenis Ugas goes into this tournament. But at middleweight, they have a champion in Ryota Murata, who they're allowing, who's been off for 2 years. Now, remember, keep in mind, they placed Manny Pacquiao as champion in recess after he defeated former unified welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman. After he beat Keith Thurman July 2019, he'd been inactive because of, obviously, was dealing with a global pandemic. And so because we was dealing with a global pandemic, so the WBA, it's all over the place, okay? The WBA, at 147, they placed Manny Pacquiao at champion in recess because of inactivity. Manny Pacquiao hadn't fought since July of 2019 after he beat Keith Thurman, former unified welterweight world champion superstar boxer, and they placed Manny Pacquiao as champion in recess, okay? And then they cited it was inactivity. Okay, they cited that Manny Pacquiao defended the title against somebody in the top 10 ranking system. Then that proved not to be true. Okay, they apologized publicly to Manny Pacquiao, but they still upheld their decision, and stated that Manny Pacquiao was champion recess after he petitioned to be reinstated with his original fight with a unification bout against Earl Spence Jr. Okay, August 21st. They decided not to reinstate Manny Pacquiao. They decided to keep Manny Pacquiao as champion in recess. Okay, which is odd because the WBA is all over the place. At 160, they have a champion in Ryota Murata, who's been inactive longer than Manny Pacquiao, and he has a mandatory challenger in former world champion Erislandy Lara, Cuban superstar boxer. But they're not mandating that Ryota Murata faces off against Erislandy Lara. They're going to allow Murata to stay inactive this duration of time until he unifies the belts against Gennady Triple G Golovkin, who's the IBF champion at middleweight. And that fight was initially scheduled to take place December 30th of this year. But there was an injury. I know what the real cause was, but there was an injury, I'm paraphrasing, that postponed the fight. So it's over 2 years since Ryota Murata has since last fought. Okay, so they're not standing on a certain pattern. Okay, they are all over the place. Okay, they don't have a strategy. They're making decisions at 135. They're going to allow George Kambosos Jr., who attended Devin Haney's fight at Las Vegas, Nevada, December 4th, and he attended Gervonta Tank Davis' fight in Los Angeles, California, December 5th. Okay, he cited that he wanted to fight, the more exciting fighter. So George Kambosos Jr., he's on record as stating that he wants to fight against the more exciting fighter, and he stated that Devin Haney was the more exciting fighter. He actually thought that Isaac Pitbull Cruz won the fight against Gervonta Tank Davis. So he stated that he wanted to begin negotiations. Well, it makes sense because history will be made. But the WBA, they're stating that if he doesn't defend his titles in a unification bout against Devin Haney for undisputed, then they're going to enforce that he has to fight Gervonta Tank Davis as the mandatory, or one of these guys are going to be stripped of their title. Okay, and so with that said, we know Devin Haney's on record saying he would love to go to Australia to face George Kambosos Jr. That's what George Kambosos Jr. wants. Now, when it comes to WBA, we know Manny Pacquiao was not allowed to unify the belts. They elevated Yordenis Ugas. They're putting Yordenis Ugas in a mini tournament. Okay. At 35, coming off of the biggest win in his career over Manny Pacquiao, they're placing him in a mini tournament. Yet, Ryota Murata, they're not mandating and forcing that he faces off against Erislandy Lara. Okay? And then at 135, they're going to allow George Kambosos Jr. to unify, go in an undisputed match with Devin Haney. So their WBA is all over the place with their business and how they conduct business. As Manny Pacquiao stated, is very unprofessional in the way they go about doing business. They also knew that Yordenis Ugas had a deal in place to face off against Errol Spence Jr. at welterweight in February. Okay, but yet they decided to change their plans and enforce that Yordenis Ugas has to enter a mandatory tournament against Stanionis and then face Butev, who beat the WBA regular champion Jamal James. So now he's waiting. So he has to go through Butev and Stanionis before he can go into a unification bout, which leaves Errol Spence most likely to face WBO welterweight world champion superstar boxer Terrence Bud Crawford in his next fight. The problem with this is that more than likely neither one of these guys, Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford, is going to be motivated to fight for undisputed at welterweight against Butev, because they're more than likely going to do a 2-fight deal. Okay, so maybe they both has shown and expressed interest in moving up to junior middleweight, that they want to collect all the belts and then move up to junior middleweight 154. I think Terrence Crawford has more time at welterweight than Errol Spence does. I think that Errol Spence after Terrence Crawford, should he be victorious, he's moving up to junior middleweight regardless of what takes place, okay? Terrence Crawford may stick around to become undisputed in 2 separate weight classes. But what's interesting here is that if Devin Haney and George Kambosos Jr. can't come to an agreement, which I find should be very difficult not to come to agreement. Both are network free agents. Both guys have agreed that the fight in Australia wouldn't be a problem. Both guys agreed that they want to fight for history. History can be made because the winner of this fight will be the first 4 major sanctioned belt holder and Ring Magazine lineal champion at lightweight. So they're both going to create history at lightweight. So it just makes sense for these guys to face off against one another and get a deal done. But if they do go to a mandatory position with George Kambosos and Gervonta Tank Davis, well, that means that it would possibly go to a purse bid, and then if it goes to a purse bid, automatically, because George Kambosos Jr. is the super champion, he would get a 60-40 split in his favor. So that means Gervonta Tank Davis will be going in a fight with George Kambosos Jr. as a B-side, and I can't see that happening at all whatsoever. So this is interesting, but I believe that Devin Haney and George Kambosos Jr. will get a deal done, and we'll see them in the ring about March time. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. That's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Hit the bell icon to get all the new notification. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Raw. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.